Good morning, Foamfoot 420.
Now, Chris Duel.
Oh, my goodness. The football gods are showering four college football games upon us tonight. The Citadel at Coastal Carolina, Weber State at Utah, Ohio State at Minnesota, Southern Utah at Arizona State. Not the greatest lineup ever, but in each of those games, there is a ranked football team in the top 25. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney and a very surprised soundscape stylist who we will introduce in just a moment. Shannon, how is your Thursday going so far?
It feels good to know that my TV schedule is set tonight and for a while. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to spend an hour shuffling through the various digital sites that I have access to figure out what I want to watch. It's just there.
Football. And again, none of these lineups on a normal Saturday, if it were Saturday, but it's Thursday night, on a normal Saturday, I'd probably pass on most of these, except maybe Ohio State, Minnesota, just to get a look at Ohio State because they're ranked number 4. And, oh, by the way, that game's at 7 o'clock tonight on Fox. But I'm still in the football-starved phase, Shannon, so it's still kind of a novelty. So, once we get more football going and more football choices and we can watch the teams that we really want to watch, like the Texas Longhorns and other teams in the great state of Texas, including UTSA here in San Antonio, then I'll be a little pickier. But right now, it's like I've been starving for months and you're putting food in front of me, so I think I'm going to eat it.
It's the time of year I wish I had a multi-TV setup, but my decorator would not allow it as much as I tried.
Very cool. We got a fun show, as always, and some really good guests, and a guy I really like a lot. I've had him on over the years many times, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. He's kind of a big deal. Derek Fox. He doesn't act like he's a big deal. He is a big deal, but he doesn't act like he's a big deal, which is cool. There's this cool pigskin preview coming next week, Wednesday, September 8th, that lots of people can go to. It's going to preview the upcoming college football season, and specifically the Big 12 and the Pac-12, because one of those, each of those conferences will send a team to the Valero Alamo Bowl. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about all things college football with Derek Fox, Shannon, including name, image, and likeness and realignment and SEC and Texas and OU going to the SEC and what all of that may or may not mean for the future of the Valero Alamo Bowl. So that should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I also want to ask him about, a lot of these kids. I wish I could go play in a bowl game because these kids get swag like no other. I mean, game systems, television. I mean, it's so. I mean, I would just go to do that for the kids that are always like, no, I want to go to the NFL. I'm not going to play. I'm like, do you know what you're missing out on?
Exactly.
It's just me, and I like things, I guess.
Well, and consistently, the Valero Alamo Bowl, I mean, it has been it's so well run, and a lot of that credit does go to Derek Fox and his staff. Ratings are always, other than your insane, blue blood bowls like the Rose Bowl and, the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, other than the ratings for the Valero Alamo Bowl have been remarkable, typically year after year after year. So I'm looking now, and we'll get more information about it is officially called the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview Luncheon. I've been to a number of these over the years, and they're fun. They're in the Alamo Dome. You get on the field. There's activities. There's prizes. Sam Acho is going to be the guest speaker. Sam Acho, of course, currently at the Four Letter Network, ESPN. So should be a lot of fun. And again, I mean, that is something to bring up with him, Shannon. What happens? I mean, because we have this construct of Big 12 and Pac-12 sending their representatives to the Alamo Bowl. What happens when Texas and OU go away, and all this talk about the Big 12 maybe dissolving? Then what is Derek Fox going to do?
Well, and we get an announcement yesterday. It was kind of a weird announcement from the Big 12. They just kind of tweeted it out, and it was very short, and it didn't say a whole lot. It basically said, we're going to try and expand. We do not want to go away. But they didn't set a game plan. They didn't make any references to any. It was just, we believe in the future of this conference.
Yeah.
And the strength and the stability of it.
Now, in a weird way, I mean, it would never be the same as it was with Texas and OU. And I think maybe the Big 12 just has to say, hey, we're not ever going to be that again, but we can be something interesting. And to me, Shannon, that would be embrace your Texas roots. Take a look at UTSA, take a look at the Houston Cougars, take a look at UTEP, SMU, just embrace the Texas thing. And again, that's not nearly as sexy as having OU and Texas and the Big 12 as we once knew it. But, you've got to realize what you now are and try to find a way to maximize that. And obviously I'm biased for UTSA, but it is one direction they could go in.
Yeah. And you got to look at programs who are on the rise and could make a good case to, you don't want to bring somebody in who's going to be the bottom of the barrel. You don't want to bring somebody in where Kansas is like, oh, thank goodness. Somebody else to be the butt of all jokes. Like you want somebody who's going to compete. And we've seen U of H compete before. We'll see what UTSA can do this weekend when they face a Big Ten opponent.
Yes.
In Illinois, I mean, they could really make a case for themselves this year. I mean, this is really an audition for all of those sort of schools that are kind of on the cusp of reaching that next level as the Big 12 looks to make additions to their conference.
That is a huge point. And I didn't think about it till you just said it, Shannon, especially with, connect the dots here, especially with the Big 12 now saying we're looking to expand. And, we spoke earlier, and every Monday now, we'll be speaking with Jeff Traylor, the head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners. It is kind of not just this game, and I think it is, as you say, UTSA at Illinois on Saturday evening, but this entire season where Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine picks UTSA to go 10-2. If they could knock off an Illinois, if they could go 10-2 and really get people's attention, this forward movement, this idea of expanding, that the Big 12 may move sooner than later on these plans. And certainly UTSA, if they had a 10-2 record and were making a name for themselves this year, certainly that would increase their possibility of being considered for it. So that's a big deal and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I would hope so. And, it's interesting with Texas and OU leaving. They were the biggest rivalry in the Big 12. And then I think next you would have that Oklahoma State game that is so big every year as it is, interstate rival. But the next one is TCU Baylor. But to me, that's a game that only feels like a rivalry if you're part of the fan club that is either the Horned Frogs or the Bears.
Yeah.
No one else feels it, whereas everyone feels the weight that is Texas OU. I feel the weight of OSU Oklahoma. So it'd be fun if they, UTSA came in, you could create maybe something between them and Baylor that maybe, split the north and south side of Texas. I don't know. Just something along those lines. They have to bring teams in that are compelling, that have compelling storylines, whether it be their history or the cast of characters they bring in. It really is going to be an audition process for these next couple of years. And, whether that's you're scheduling great opponents that you're making a case for because you're beating them or you're playing them really well. I mean, it's going to be really interesting because at first we thought, okay, it's going to be Big 12 teams that are going to be auditioning to get into other conferences. But the Big 12 saying that, they want to stick around, I guess it's up to those schools to decide that they too want to stick around. At the moment, they seem committed. So, it kind of flips from them auditioning to others auditioning for them.
Yeah, I'm noticing on our live video feed, Shannon, our good friend, and he calls us now and then. We always enjoy his calls. Wes Perkins has the teams that he wants to see the Big 12 add. He says the Big 12 needs to add Cincinnati, Boise State, BYU, UCF, SMU, UTSA, University of Houston, and Memphis. Those are, Boise State and BYU especially of that list. Those are kind of sexy brands. I mean, nowhere near obviously Texas or OU, but if you're trying to upgrade what the Big 12 would be after Texas and OU leave, if you added Boise State and BYU, that's, and to a lesser extent, maybe Cincinnati, those are programs that now and then have made some big noise. I think Memphis may be in that mix, University of Houston sometimes. So, yeah, there are some teams out there, but I wonder if, and the Big 12 wants to do this, I wonder, even though the Pac-12 recently said, for now, we're not looking at expanding. I think all of this is in flux. I think the Pac-12 could decide in November, well, wait a minute, the more we look at the landscape, maybe we will.
They can bring how much money to our conference?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So, so there might be, if an Oklahoma State start for whatever the reason, and now the Pac-12 has teams like Utah in it that are, to me, Oklahoma State is certainly on a par with a Utah. So I wonder, even though the Big 12 is saying, hey, we're going to expand, I wonder if they are safe from maybe some of these schools in the Big 12 getting picked off by other conferences. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
I think Cincinnati made more sense when, you still have West Virginia. If West Virginia ends up staying around, I think that makes more sense than if West Virginia's gone, because West Virginia already seems like they're just kind of out there. Memphis to me would be more of an addition because of the location, right? It's a destination city. People would travel well. People would be excited to go to Memphis. And BYU, I think, has always been a candidate that's just kind of been floating around, even in these last few years when the Big 12 has really only been Big 10, right? And no total number of teams. As a Texas fan, I never wanted to see them added because Texas has not fared very well against BYU, and they are always a challenging opponent. But with us leaving, I'm fine with it. I'm totally cool. Bring them on.
Come
on down.
Yes. And one more point, and I'll bring this up with Derek Fox. And I texted this to you, and I think you saw it, Shannon, in The Athletic. One of the college football writers in The Athletic already, and this is way too soon, I know, but he already predicted every bowl game. He said, here's what every bowl game is going to be. According to his predictions. And for the Valero Alamo Bowl, he had the Texas Longhorns once again coming to San Antonio, but this time facing a team that would be a first-time Alamo Bowl participant, the USC Trojans. It has always been my dream, Shannon. Obviously, the goal of the Longhorns is not the Alamo Bowl, nor is it of the Trojans. You want to go to the college football playoff, obviously, but if you can't do that, I've always thought if my alma mater, the USC Trojans, and let's not forget the Song Girls, if the football team comes, the Song Girls would be coming too. I'm just saying they're very, very talented. Take my word for it. If they come to my own backyard, I mean, how far do I live from the Alamo Dome? Like 12 miles? If I can see a USC Trojan football game, a bowl game, 12 miles from where I eat and sleep and breathe, that would be so cool. And if it's Texas, you get a little, I think ever since that national championship game, and the Longhorns and the Trojans did a home and away in the Sam Ehlinger era, I just think I think it'd be a little extra juice. It'd be a little extra fun. I know you being a Longhorn alum is like, oh no, not San Antonio again. But if it's USC, I think we might have something going on. Not to mention you and I. Imagine the bets you and I would have, and the humiliation for the loser of that bet. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, I like it. I wouldn't see it more as of a rematch of that Rose Bowl. I think I'd see it more as the tiebreaker of the two recent stints that the teams had, right? Yeah. The home and home, where they ended up splitting those games. And the only thing that's so weird is rarely do you see a team go back to back to a bowl game. You never see a team go back to back to back to a bowl game. I feel like last year there was a split between, okay, is Texas going to end up at the Camping World Bowl, which is in Orlando, or are they going to go back to San Antonio? And I feel like San Antonio gave them the bid because COVID, right? So you're bringing people into town, but they're not necessarily there to sit and spread whatever they might bring with them. So safety wise, I think it just made sense. And then still, like, Texas fans obviously travel well, but they're not like me. Whenever we play there, we're not going and staying in a hotel overnight. Like, we're going and we're driving back. And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
do that as well. And the Alamo Bowl is known for bringing in, I think, like $40 million to the city and
It's something
economic
crazy.
growth
Yeah.
when you do have out of town teams. So I think for them economically, it makes more sense to try somebody else. I mean, yes, they'll get fans in the stands, they'll get more attendance at the actual game, but for the city's growth, Texas isn't always the big name or the big market name that you're looking for. It would be interesting to see, depending on how Texas shakes out, if they're willing to make that call again and say, "Hey, do you maybe want a third time's the charm? You've won the last two. Why not go for a third one?"
Yeah. Lots of considerations, and we'll kick a few of these items around with Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl, just after 8 o'clock. Also in the 8 o'clock hour at 8:35, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. He's going to get on that airplane with the team and head to Champaign, Illinois for the game on Saturday evening. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, we will give away another pair of tickets to see Coheed and Cambria. They are coming to Circuit of the Americas this weekend. And since we burned this opening segment without introducing our mystery soundscape stylist, we will do that in the very next segment. It's not Dave Ayler. Dave Ayler is somewhere else in the building today and tomorrow. So back by popular demand, we brought somebody, but we'll tell you who that is next, along with the high five play of the day. Shannon's Salty Shakedown in the 7 o'clock hour, along with this day in sports history and sports birthdays. Your phone calls anytime you want to jump in with us, 800-707-9760. She's the salty one, Shannon Sweeney. I'm Chris. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Beth Settle, good morning. Up early again. And if you're in San Antonio or Austin, Beth Settle, this goes for you. Heat index today between 104 and 108. We are under a heat advisory. So if you're exercising out there today, be extra careful. Do it in the morning if you can. Hydrate, wear appropriate clothes. Don't leave kids or animals in your car ever, ever, ever. So let's see here. We've got Luisa Alanis, welcome in. Foamfoot 420, Wes Perkins. Tracy Bogert, the chairman of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans and Coronavirus Deniers and the Anti-Vax Coalition. John Williams, welcome. Jason Paniagua. Hector Gomez, welcome. Robert Armstrong. Steve Duraco, the original Rock, who sent me a text already this morning. Find that Steve Duraco text. He said, I just read that alcohol sales will now begin on Sunday at 10 a.m. And he said, thank you, Governor Greg Abbott. Congratulations, Steve Duraco. Steve Duraco, the Bexar County chairman of the Governor Greg Abbott re-election committee. Now tell your Greg Abbott to get moving on legalizing cannabis, Steve Duraco, because we need new sponsors for the show. We want marijuana sponsors. We want to do live remotes from a cannabis dispensary. Jason Paniagua says, I can't wait until I can buy George straight tequila on a Sunday in a liquor store. Yes. Oh, and did that go into effect yesterday, the firearms? Now, or maybe Monday. Now in Texas, everybody can carry a firearm concealed without a license and without any training whatsoever. What could possibly go wrong? So, yeah, liquor 24/7 and gun sales 24/7. Yeehaw, Texas. Yeah, Jason Paniagua. Yeah, don't forget the most restrictive laws concerning women's bodies. Yeah, I mean, lots of law changes lately in the great state of Texas. You are correct. Yeah, and I was doing news earlier in the 5 o'clock hour on WAI and regarding that new abortion law in Texas. The Supreme Court said, yeah, we got no problem here. By a 5-4 vote, they chose not to intervene. Okay, now what is... Yeah, and I see what you're writing, Luisa, and on the gun thing, you need a license to drive a car. You need training to drive a car. You need driver education. I am all, an adult citizen who wants a firearm. I'm okay with that. I think there's too many guns on the street, but I just think, training and licensing is a good idea when you have a lethal weapon. And a car is a lethal weapon. You can kill people and kill yourself with a car. So yeah, training and licensing are really good ideas and seem to be common sense, if you ask me. Anthony Del Toro, my nephew got mugged overnight in the Stone Oak area while taking his dog out at gunpoint. Knowing there will be more guns carried at free will is mind-blowing. Anthony, it is. And I mean, anybody you now see in Texas could be carrying a gun. So, I mean, when you get into like road rage incidents, somebody cuts you off and you feel like you should flip them off, watch out. Dude or dudette may be carrying a gun. Tracy Bogart says, I'm a lifelong hunter and outdoorsman, and the gun bill is crazy. Yeah, I mean, just common sense is a beautiful thing. Oh gosh, I didn't. Here I am yapping, and I didn't do the poll yet. Thank you, voice dude. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Coming up, the high five play of the day. In a lot of ways, you can participate in the show. One fun way is the live video feed. Even during the break there, we were having a conversation with the folks in there. And you can always access that. You're not only interacting with Shannon and with me in real time, but people from across Texas and often people from around the world jump in there and interact with one another. It's usually very, very interesting and entertaining. You can get there via Facebook Live, AM 1300 The Zone, or Ticket 760's Facebook page. There's a YouTube portal into our live video feed, and we are back on Twitch after the 1 day protest of mean people on Twitch. Feel better, Shannon, that we supported that Twitch protest.
I feel like I did my part.
Woo! That's what we're all about. Before the high five play of the day, Shannon, I am remiss. I did not introduce, but I saved it. I wanted it to be a big reveal. Our soundscape stylist, and there he is on the live video feed. Before I even say it, if you are on the live video feed, you can see him now, although I see his microphone is muted, so somebody take care of that. There we go. Here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him, and he is back. Jeremy Fouts, the boy wonder. Jeremy, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's been a long time.
It has.
But I'm glad to be back on National Blueberry Popsicle Day.
Blueberry Popsicle.
That is very specific.
I never even knew one existed.
And World Coconut Day and Victory over Japan Day. So
Victory over Japan in what? Soccer? World War Cup?
World War II.
Oh.
I think.
Yeah, that little war they had back in the 1940s.
That one.
Yeah.
It's a small one.
Victory over Japan Day.
Yes.
Blueberry Popsicle Day.
Yeah. Those two, it makes sense that they're on the same day.
So you celebrate America's victory in World War II while enjoying a blueberry popsicle.
And a coconut, yes.
And a coconut. Yeah, I heard you say ew when he said coconut.
I hate coconut. I hate it.
I kind of like coconut.
Nasty.
Yeah, I like
the
coconut.
texture, like coconut flavored things. Also no, but like the texture. Like what are those candy bars with the coconut?
Almond Joy's got some coconut in it.
That's so bad. That was one of those things. Like I'd come home from trick or treating, I'd pick out all the icky stuff, and that was one. So here you go, Mom. I got these special for you.
Nice. Very, very nice. So, Jeremy, what have you been doing with your life when you're away from this show? What's going on in the life of the boy wonder and the nephew of NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Fouts, Jeremy Fouts?
Just been, traveling, getting ready for the NFL season, ready to give you guys my amazing eclectic picks.
Ooh.
So hopefully I'll have hilarity incoming for that. But that's pretty much been it. Just been working. Helping out a lot with Missions Baseball over here on the Bowl.
Nice.
Right next to us. So if you like baseball, give that a listen.
We do like baseball.
I'm on there.
Very cool. Yeah, so we got to figure out. Because Shannon, Jeremy's football picks are clearly eclectic and entertaining, but often he nailed last year he picked the first New York Jets victory when the Jets were like 0-7 or 0-8 on the weekend show on the Blue Collar Sports Dad's show. He said, "I'm picking the Jets. Jets are going to win." The Jets won. He's like, he's got some special powers. So yeah, we got to figure out how and when we're going to get because you're not here next week, correct?
Not that I know.
Okay, because football season begins Thursday, so I figured, Shannon, we'll do our football picks either, just to pick the season and reveal the standings, either Wednesday or Thursday of next week.
That's good. But I still need to get mine done.
Oh God. So yeah, that's one of my weekend chores is to make sure I do that. So, well, Jeremy, we'll figure it out. But
Okay,
we
sounds
must
good.
have your football picks.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So are you still working on that Blue Collar Sports Dad show on Sundays?
I am, yes.
Good.
And if you like this show, you should listen to that one too.
Yes.
Because they both feature me.
They both exactly. Jeremy's on that, of course. Dylan Emery, who is outstanding, as is Terrell Huff, who's on that show. We've had them on this show and will again. So absolutely check that out on Sundays, 10 a.m. to noon. It is in San Antonio. So if you're listening on AM 1300 The Zone, you can go find that on the iHeartRadio app. They do a lot. They do a Facebook feed like we do, a video feed. So it's a cool show. All right, 6:42 in the AM. At this time every morning, we like to hand out a high five or two because it's the right thing to do. It's the high five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five. 2 locations in the Austin area, and you're going to have just great fun because they got big screen TVs everywhere. They've got great food. They got great drinks and great games, bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, and many, many more. Shannon Salty Sweeney has been in there and will be again. Look around. You may see her wielding an axe, in which case be very nice to her. And here she is. Shannon, what is our high five play of this morning?
Yeah, our high five is going to Simone Biles, not just because she deserves it, but probably because she also needs it after her boyfriend, Jonathan Owens, was cut from the Houston Texans.
Oh.
He did not make the 53-man roster, but Simone Biles and the Today Show teamed up to do something incredibly special for her teammate and gold medalist, Suni Lee, who won the all-around, while Simone had to, take herself out of that to work on her mental health and kind of regain after having the twisties, kind of getting it all back together. So she cheered her on to that gold medal. Well, Suni Lee's father is in a wheelchair, and he's been using just kind of your standard wheelchair. So his son has had the job of pushing him around. And during their return to the U.S., when Team USA Gymnastics appeared on the Today Show with their families, Suni Lee draped her gold medal over her father. It was a very emotional moment. It was something they'd all waited for so long. And it was just a special moment that was live on TV. It really got to the heart of Simone Biles. And so she and the Today Show have teamed up, and they've gotten him a souped up wheelchair that's going to be customizable to him. It's motorized. It's, there's a video of him riding in it. His kid no longer has to push him. He's actually riding on the back of it while his dad is driving it. It's incredibly fantastic. Simone, went above and beyond to say, look, this is my teammate. I care about her. I care about her family. This is something her dad needs. How do we make this happen? And she did it. She's an incredible human being. So a high five to Simone, as well as the crew of the Today Show.
That is way cool, and so many reasons to like Simone Biles, and we certainly do. And a bit to unpack there. First of all, that's just tremendous. You think about, and you see someone who uses a wheelchair, and that's one thing. But the expense, I can't even imagine one of the amazing wheelchairs that is motorized, how expensive that might be. So there should be more people doing this. They should be made more affordable.
Yeah.
If someone wants one, they should be affordable. They should have the opportunity to get one. Maybe this on some level might raise awareness for that, which I think is a big deal. But then the first thing you mentioned, and I did see that story as well, Simone Biles' boyfriend, and I did not know this until he was cut, was trying out for the Houston Texans, went through training camp, made it to the last cut, made it to this week's cut down to 53. But Shannon, when you're cut by the Houston Texans, I mean, it's one thing to be cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like the guy who graduated from the Naval Academy was, when he had that fight and that dispute so that he could try out and go to training camp for the Bucs. But when you're cut by the Houston Texans, that's almost like being cut by the New York Jets. That's not good. That's not a good look.
Yeah. So who knows if he'll get picked up to go elsewhere. I think he's a cornerback. So I don't know. Maybe they're just really deep there. Maybe that's the one position they have going for him, and he just didn't make it.
Well, and what are the odds? Because she is from Houston. Of all of the teams that he might be trying out. And maybe that was the reason. If he was a free agent, maybe he could have tried out for the Cincinnati Bengals or another team. But
yeah, I think he's
maybe
been
because
there.
she's in Houston and he wanted to be close to her, I guess.
Yeah, I think he had been there. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes elsewhere and what that might look like for them. Similar to JJ Watt, right? I mean, he met his girlfriend who was playing in Houston for the Houston Dash soccer club, and they dated throughout that time, and then they got engaged and got married, and then she said, all right, I'm going to go to a different club, which was Chicago. So everyone was like, JJ's going to go to Chicago. Well, JJ didn't go to Chicago, but he certainly didn't stay in Houston.
True. There you have it.
The heart wants what it wants, Chris.
That is true. That's what they tell me. And I think that is true. John Williams telling us on the live video feed that Suni Lee will be on Dancing with the Stars. Now, Simone Biles was on Dancing with the Stars and was outstanding. I actually watched a few of those episodes. I'm not a regular Dancing with the Stars viewer, but I did see a number of Simone Biles season on Dancing with the Stars. So hopefully Suni Lee will do well. That would be nice.
I am not a fan of that show.
Why not?
That show has, I feel like, turned into the, where are they now?
Yeah.
Because most of them are people that have completely fallen off the radar and are looking for a quick payday to possibly regain relevant, right? Because then they've gone the American Idol route where before every performance there is some sort of sad story and I'm like, how many sad stories do you have to be on this show? And I just don't find it compelling as far as the product, the actual dancing. I don't care. The judges, I don't care. I don't care that you get a gold mirror ball. I don't care. Even with our, work whatever, Bobby Bones went. I was like, I still don't care.
Yeah.
Still do
now
not.
Occasionally
My
though,
on there, I do not care.
As a sports fan, Megatron was on there. Calvin Johnson. And Emmett Smith won it many, many years ago. So occasionally you get maybe a cowboy or an athlete that the greatest for me was Governor Rick Perry, former Texas Governor Rick Perry, after he bowed out of the presidential race when he was running for the Republican nomination. Rick Perry goes on it and was just an amazingly bad dancer, but just to see him trying, it was very funny. And I actually give him credit for just going for it. And then it was after that he was then named Secretary of Energy in the Trump administration. So, Rick Perry landed all right, even though he did not win the bid for the presidency. But it was kind of weird to see our longtime Texas governor on Dancing with the Stars. Jeremy, are you a Dancing with the Stars guy? Have you ever watched it? And would you go on Dancing with? I think you would be a very intriguing contestant on Dancing with the Stars.
I don't watch it, but if they invite me on there, I'd do some dancing. I think
you could cut a rug, man.
Yeah, I think I could make it to the top.
I do too.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate that.
So Shannon, tonight we talked about this earlier. In fact, I'm going to make it the poll question. We're a little late getting the poll question up. They're going to do that during the break. But 4 football games tonight. Now, 2 of them are on the Pac-12 network, so they won't be as easy to see. But first game of the evening, the Citadel at Coastal Carolina, which is ranked number 22. Coastal Carolina made a lot of noise last season. 30 minutes later, and it's a Pac-12 game. And what's interesting about all of these, you've got a ranked team in the top 25 in each of these games. So second game of the evening, 30 minutes later at 6:30 on the Pac-12 network, number 24, Utah hosting Weber State. The marquee game of the night, it would seem, will be on Fox, 7 o'clock tonight. Number 4, Ohio State at Minnesota. You and I are pulling for an upset in that one. And finally tonight, and it's also on the Pac-12 network, and it's at 9:30. And I hope to be asleep by then because we wake up early the next day. Number 25, Arizona State hosting Southern Utah. And Shannon, as I mentioned earlier, if those games were on a Saturday in the middle of the season, I may not be that excited by any of them, but I am so football starved. I'll take it. Let's take a look at it. Should be fun tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And unfortunately, the one that I think storyline-wise, the most interested in is that 9:30 Arizona State, because Herm Edwards to me that experiment, I think, is pretty close to running its course. And if he can't pull off something tonight, especially when he's ranked 25, I think he'll be gone.
Yeah, so why do you think it's running its course? Do you think expectations at Arizona State have been higher than what he has delivered?
I think they're high for him. I don't know about the program. I think they just assumed that you bring in a guy like Herm Edwards and things will change. I mean, let's be honest. His first pressers at the school, people were being like, so-and-so from the Sun Devil Reporter. He goes, Sun Devils? Who's the Sun Devils? You are the Sun Devils. That is literally your and he did it multiple times. It's like, he's like, we don't like devils around here. It's like, that's literally your mascot. Like I think he's in way over his head. I think the school thought they were getting a big name, which meant, that was a great move somehow. Yes, it brought him relevancy, but I just don't think that they've been having the success that they thought they would under him.
And you would think, and I guess this was part of the thinking, to bring in a longtime NFL coach, that kids wanting to get to the NFL might be more likely to go to ASU. So, but I don't know if that has happened. So, yeah, and I like him, though. I mean, you mock him.
He's a great character. I wish he was back on television.
I want him to be happy. I want him to succeed. Now, obviously, Pac-12, I'm a USC guy. I don't want Arizona State to ever succeed against USC. But I want Herm Edwards as a coach to succeed. But you're right. If this fails, we may see him back on television, which would be better for us, perhaps.
I mean, it's very almost similar to kind of what we're seeing now with Urban Meyer. Like these great coaches that have said, all right, I'm gonna go to the booth, and then they get pulled back out somehow by something brings them back out, and they think that they can do it all over again. It's just not the same anymore. Unless you're Mac Brown, then you do it with UNC, and that's a different story.
Yeah, if you're Mac Brown, you're just successful wherever you go. So, good point. We will talk more NFL football. Lots going on. So an interesting story in the NBA involving the league having to adhere to local municipalities' COVID-19 restrictions. So unvaccinated players in the NBA might be in for a rude awakening. We'll talk about that and a lot more. Your phone calls at 800-707-9760. The Salty Shakedown coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, along with sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Jeremy Fouts, the boy wonder, is your soundscape stylist. Shannon Salty Sweeney and me, Chris Duel, with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Okay, let's see if I can finally get that poll question up. For the love of God. Now, what's killing me here is I only have 25 characters. All right, poll question up. That's a good thing. Ah. Yeah, Robert, I do like the Pac-12 games. I wish. Well, and actually, I'm glad USC's not playing tonight because I got to wake up so early. I'm doing the early morning news on WOAI, which is an hour earlier wake up time, 2:30 a.m. So I'm better off that USC plays San Jose State on Saturday and not tonight, because that would be rough. And being a Trojan, I would have to stay up, fight on. All right. Robert saying, what happened to Taylor? Is it, you mean Mike Taylor? He is on in the afternoons, 4 to 7. Okay, now I need to see what this. So I need 3 of those. I see, Robert. Now I see what you're asking. Jeremy might have that answer. I do not. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
The weekend is here. We start the weekends on Thursday. If for some reason your employer, your boss, your school, your military commander frowns upon you starting the weekend on Thursday, fear not. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and I are here for you. We will write a note for you. We'll sign an email. We'll just say, hey, we told your loyal employee, student, assignee, whatever, that, hey, it's the weekend. It's the Labor Day weekend. Shannon, this is not just any weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. It's a big, big weekend that we are now in the midst
I
of.
know it. And I love that it falls on the opening weekend of college football, because it's always kind of a bit of a shock and readjustment. I mean, game days to me are almost like extra work days, because it is long hours. I do get some work done, and it's just, you have to get back into the swing of things. So I'm appreciative that we have that extra day to recoup and gather our thoughts and
Yes.
come in Tuesday and just go hard in the paint.
And it's going to be, that's NFL opening week. Once we get back Tuesday, we'll be just a little over 48 hours away from Cowboys Buccaneers on that opening Thursday night game. So lots to talk about in the realms of college and pro football. By the way, if you want to jump in here anytime this morning, you're absolutely welcome. 800-707-9760. Big guests coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. About an hour from now, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. He's going to talk about an event coming to San Antonio and the Alamo Dome next Wednesday, the 8th of September. It is the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview. Going to just preview the entire upcoming college football season. You'll get comments from ESPN and Texas Longhorn. Sam Acho is going to be there. It's a fun event. I've been to a number of those over the years. Great fun. There'll be a special focus on the Big 12 and the Pac-12, as each of those conferences will send a representative to the Valero Alamo Bowl. And certainly when Shannon and I talk to Derek Fox in about an hour, less than an hour, we'll talk about realignment, expansion, name, image, and likeness, and how all of that is going to affect college football and the bowls as well. We'll also speak just after 8:30 with Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics, as he gets ready for the UTSA game at Illinois. Shannon, I was listening last night. I tuned in to the Jeff Traylor show, which Andy is the co-host, of course, with Jeff Traylor, comes from the Sandlot, which is a nice restaurant bar near UTSA. And Jeff Traylor is just such a great, he's like a central casting. If you're going to make a movie about a college football team and you need you need a guy to play the role of the coach. He's motivational. He's inspiring. He's Texan. He's got the Texas accent. He's no nonsense. He just wants to get it done and win football games. And I went out into the street and I tackled somebody right after the show. It was pretty amazing. They were a bit offended and appalled. I said, "Hey man, I was just listening to Coach Jeff Traylor. I had to hit somebody." So.
And then they were like, "Oh, I understand."
Oh, Jeff, of course. My bad.
He does that to people.
Woo. Absolutely. So, Shannon, not only do we have football on the menu tonight in the college football realm, but you saw it, I saw it. Hard Knocks has dropped. I believe that was episode 4. So we've got one more coming next week. How did you like Hard Knocks? How did it compare to the first 3? Are you as enthralled as you were for episodes 1, 2, and 3?
I felt like I was just waiting for something to happen the whole time. I mean, there really wasn't much of a storyline other than seeing Jaquan Hardy go and order a giant meal at a chicken wing spot. That was about it. And then at the tail end, Jerry gushing over Whataburger, which as Texans we all understand.
Yes.
So it was pretty lackluster, and I don't know if that's also like it's a weird episode every year anyway, episode 4, because we already know who's been cut at that point, right?
True.
And so you're just like, okay, this is almost pointless to focus so much on certain players. But even when they were focusing on them, I feel like we're getting more game action than like the behind the scenes stuff that we're so accustomed to with Hard Knocks, that it's just, I don't know, it's not my favorite season. Yeah,
I did kind of like, there was one sequence where Amari Cooper and Trayvon Diggs were going after it in practice, and Trayvon says he will not catch a pass, and Dak runs out and says, "What do you want to bet? Hey, you gonna let's bet on this." And then Amari Cooper goes on to catch a couple of touchdown passes on Trayvon Diggs. It was kind of fun to see that rivalry go on. And then at the very end of it, Amari Cooper goes, I normally don't act like that or bet. He said, actually, sorry about that, Trayvon. He said, Dak made me do it. So that was kind of a fun sequence.
Yeah, it's good to see that they're able to find motivation and fun and, non-harmful ways during practice. Because it was all in good fun. It wasn't like they were having a fight.
No.
Like you see sometimes at camps.
Now, I do feel a little better. There were some sequences of Dak Prescott throwing the football in practice. And, again, I'm worried about him. So I'm watching very closely. I'm watching his movement. I'm watching his shoulder. I'm watching his arm. I'm looking for facial expressions from him as he lets go of the football. I mean, and obviously it's Hard Knocks. And Dak himself, knowing cameras are rolling, is going to put the best face on it. But he looks normal throwing the football, at least what we can see from the practice on Hard Knocks.
Well, and then on the other side of that, Ben DiNucci was highlighted a lot, almost like they either knew or they decided to. I mean, they've been like he's been the other quarterback that they've been following.
Yes.
But with the narration and the music behind and us already knowing, obviously, that he has been sent to the practice squad, it's just, it was interesting to see that. And it's almost like they're trying to make you feel bad for him because you know what's coming.
Well, and you also have to wonder, Ben, and we talked about, we were on the air when Ben DiNucci was released, and you and I were both happy about that. And then we subsequently find out that he's going to be brought back to the practice squad. You've got to wonder if part of that was so that we could have, if the Cowboys were in on it, so we can have that dramatic scene, which I guess we'll see next week, of Ben DiNucci going into Mike McCarthy's office and getting the bad news. And then they'll probably show Ben clearing out his locker and walking away into the sunset and make it look like he's gone forever. And yet now, boom, you're right back on the practice squad.
But it's also so strange because in Hard Knocks past, when we've had those moments of people getting cut, they're people that we came to care about and feel like they earned a spot on the team. You know, that like maybe the only thing keeping them off the team was because it can only be X amount of people, right? It's not you. It's just the fact that we don't have enough spots. If we had 54 spots, you'd be here, but we don't. So you're not. Whereas as at least Cowboys fans, I think the general thought is, why is he even there to begin with? He doesn't deserve a spot. So I don't know. It'd be interesting if they almost like don't even show it, if they show the other guys instead getting cut and sent to the practice squad and things of that nature. Yeah,
that is an interesting point. 'Cause in most Hard Knock seasons, you grow to really like a guy.
Guys.
Yes. And then so you're a little bit crushed as a viewer and as a fan when you see that guy get the bad news that he's going to be cut. And you're right. For Cowboys fans, it's like
he didn't perform at all during preseason unless you count the interceptions as completions.
Yeah. We want to kick Ben DiNucci out the door. I was more crestfallen when I found out that he's being brought back to the practice squad.
Yeah. And that they went and grabbed Will Greer.
And that just
like, what?
Yeah, I am so ticked off at the Cowboys for that, Shannon. It is. We've said this many times. It's $1 billion business, especially for the Cowboys. And now at backup quarterback, your insurance policy is Will Greer,
Mountaineer,
Ben DiNucci, and Cooper Rush. And I had this thought yesterday. I remember the time when the Cowboys played in the NFC Championship game. Back in the Jimmy Johnson era, the backup quarterbacks were decent. For a while you had Rodney Peete as a backup quarterback. Not great, but, started some quality starts with the Eagles. He wasn't a great starter, but he was a good backup. You had Vinny Testaverde as a backup quarterback. He wasn't great as a starter, but he was a good backup for the Cowboys. Jason Garrett as a backup quarterback for the Cowboys was a good backup. I remember in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers, Troy Aikman gets knocked out. He has a concussion. He has to go to the hospital. He doesn't even remember the game as he has a concussion in the hospital. There was talk, and probably today, Aikman might not have played in that Super Bowl, but there was talk even back then. I think it was the second Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills, that Aikman might not play, and Vinny Testaverde was getting ready to have to quarterback the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. You don't want that, but I'm thinking, Shannon, what if this year the Cowboys go to the NFC Championship game and somehow win it, and in the fourth quarter, Dak Prescott is knocked out with a concussion like Troy Aikman was back in the early 90s. We feel good about Cooper Rush? If we got to go play a Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and Dak Prescott was knocked out in the fourth quarter, but the Cowboys still managed to win and go to the Super Bowl, how are we going to feel about Cooper Rush when we could have had Nick Foles, or we could have even had Cam Newton waiting in the wings to save our lives in a game like that? I mean, it's an extreme example, but it is not a far-fetched, impossible example.
A legit example. Texas fans know it all too well, i.e. 2009. Garrett Gilbert, who, by the way, I predicted it correctly. He is going back to the Patriots. They did pick him up.
Did you really?
That is smart, because he is a guy who's from that system, knows that system, was part of a Super Bowl winning team when he was there. That makes sense. And for the Cowboys, we talked about when Tony Romo, right, a few years ago when they were playing, I think, the Eagles in a playoff game, and we had to grab a math teacher, a retired quarterback who was currently teaching math class in middle school like what their issue is at this position. I don't know, but it's clearly a pattern. This isn't like this
Yes.
year is unheard of. It's just always kind of been the way with the Dallas Cowboys. And, your reference, I mean, that's similar to Colt McCoy. Mac Brown got a lot of flack for, Garrett Gilbert did great, but the moments where he kind of committed those errors were things that I think a lot of people felt if he had had that garbage time during the season wouldn't have been there. It was nerves. It was just a guy who had never done it before. And maybe we could have won that game if he had had a little bit more time under his belt and time that, during that season, Texas was beating the brakes off of people. There was plenty of garbage time to be had that he just never got the chance to get. So it's not crazy to think that way and make your case for having a decent backup and a true insurance policy when you are the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, and first of all, kudos to you. You nailed it. You predicted Garrett Gilbert would go back to the New England Patriots. And secondly, it just makes me think, Bill Belichick versus Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones. Belichick knew Garrett Gilbert, knew who he was, knew what he could deliver. So he has chosen to make him a backup quarterback in New England. And you and I think a lot of
he's a practice squad, but he's still there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Practice squad.
Available.
Just same as, DiNucci is now, even though he's practice squad, he's part of our quarterbacking core. So if Dak went down, then DiNucci would probably come off the practice squad and be that much closer to maybe getting in a football game. So Belichick chooses Garrett Gilbert, who the Cowboys said no. And you and I watching every preseason game and as much practice and hard knocks as we could determined of the three, Garrett Gilbert, Cooper Rush, and Ben DiNucci, Garrett Gilbert was the best quarterback. You and I saw it. Bill Belichick sees value in Garrett Gilbert, and the Dallas Cowboys did not. And again, like you said, I can't understand what Dallas is doing at backup quarterback when you've got a Nick Foles available, if you can make a deal for him, and yes, you can find a way to make a deal for him, or short of that, Cam Newton. I know he's not, I know there's some baggage there, and I heard somebody say on national radio yesterday, and they made a great point. He might not be one of the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, Cam Newton, but he might be around number 40 or 45. If you add up the skills of all the starters and the backups, and he's certainly better than Cooper Rush. And if we get into a scenario where there's a big game and Dak goes down and our season depends on Cooper Rush, what if it is a week 13 game in the division against the Washington football team, and you need to win that game to win the NFC East, and we've got Cooper Rush when you could have had Cam Newton coming in off the sidelines. I think we are going to be in big, big trouble.
Dak to me doesn't seem like a guy who gets threatened very easily. He's very confident in himself and his skill set, and rightfully so. But I have to wonder if the fact that we have Mike McCarthy, right, who coached Aaron Rodgers, who had to deal with Aaron Rodgers, and we saw this year just how touchy Aaron Rodgers and a backup quarterback situation can be. If maybe that is part of the thought process. But again, given, the Dak goes down, you got who do you trust that next guy? I mean, there's a good chance that Dak goes down. They play a guy for 2 weeks while they're in search of somebody else. Why would you go that route? It still just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's hopefully they shock us. I mean, based on yesterday getting Greer, I mean, it doesn't look like they're even considering Cam Newton. Maybe they are, and they'll shock us and go after a Cam or a Nick Foles. But it certainly doesn't look that way. Now, you brought this up as well, though. Jerry Jones in Hard Knocks showing his affinity for Whataburger. Now, obviously, if you live in the great state of Texas, you know Whataburger, and you probably love Whataburger. But I wonder, Jerry is all about, if Jerry Jones does anything, it's all calculated. So my question is, and I haven't checked, and maybe I should go to the Cowboys website, and I haven't checked, I know Pepsi, Nike, I know some of the sponsors of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite is a sponsor. I wonder, is Whataburger a sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys?
So Jerry has, and I think this was where the clip was from, he has his Jerry Jones Classic presented by Whataburger that they play in Frisco. And I think it's high school related, but yes, there is a partnership.
There's a connection. Okay.
aside from him apparently sending his assistant out all of the time to get him water. And now it kind of, in the first episode when we talked about Jerry Jones salting his Mc whatever he was eating for breakfast. I thought originally like they don't want to show the McDonald's logo because it's a logo and they're trying to stay away from logos. I'm thinking now it's less about it being a McDonald's logo and more about it not being a Whataburger logo. And that Jerry should maybe feel ashamed that made it to air.
Yeah.
And maybe he pressed for this Whataburger to like get back on their good side because it has become such a thing of Jerry Jones salt. I mean, I've seen videos of people making fun of him now for it and getting their own, going to McDonald's drive-thrus and then doing it to their own sandwiches. That he was like, listen, I've made a horrible mistake. We've got to give Whataburger some airtime here on Hard Knocks.
Wow. I do. I think he is so calculating. And I mean, obviously, look,
right.
$5 billion football team. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, if he gave Whataburger love, there was a reason why he gave Whataburger love, and he knew everybody would see it. Yeah. And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, and it was almost kind of weird in the love that he gave him because it was very generic love of like, I eat Whataburger all the time. Tell him how much I send you out to go get Whataburger. I want to know your order, Jerry. Like Chris Beard loves him some Whataburger, and he's talks about the taquitos and all the things that he loves about it. Very specific. Jerry, what you send your assistant? What is the main meal he knows to get you? Or are you that rich that that's just one of everything and you pick and choose or take a couple bites of some things? And God, I want to be.
And does he have the app? I wonder. Does Jerry Jones get Whataburger
He's like, make
rewards?
sure you use my free shake coupon.
Yes, I get a free taquito on this trip.
Shake.
Which reminds me, speaking of the app and speaking of Whataburger, Shannon, I have yet to. You have recommended and advised me to get the Pico de Gallo burger at Whataburger.
And I saw that they now do a chicken sandwich version. I haven't tried that one because I'm partial to burgers. But yeah, you got to get on that.
I need to do that. Maybe even today. Maybe even
make time. If you make time for anything, make time for Whataburger.
I might. Jeremy Fouts, what is on the Whataburger menu? What is your go-to item? If you go to Whataburger, what do you get?
I just like the number one, just the classic Whataburger.
Cheese on it.
Just get some cheese, ketchup, mustard, just the whole deal. I'm a simple guy.
But regular ketchup or the spicy ketchup?
Oh, I'm a spicy ketchup.
There you go.
Ketchup. Okay.
Jeremy,
spicy.
To me, the number one, the patty is just not. I get a double just because the patty's not thick enough for a number one.
Yeah, I like a patty melt because it comes with the two.
Yeah, the patty melt's the other thing I get.
Oh, so
delicious.
Buttery, delicious.
Definitely.
See, I'm so used to getting the double patty, and double cheese that I hate to admit this, but it's because I'm a creature of habit. I have not had the patty melt. I just haven't ordered it. I need to. And that's why I haven't ordered the Pico de Gallo burger because I know what I like.
I'm thinking less of you.
I want I know what I want, a double Whataburger with fries. And I believe, and I'm not a spicy. I'm an original ketchup
ketchup kind of guy.
Yeah, so
that ketchup's good too.
Chris Gonzalez on the live video feed says, "Try the honey barbecue chicken."
That's good too. I mean, you can't go wrong. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I just think, Shannon, you need to somehow develop your own salt because you are Salty Sweeney. You need to develop your own special salt and then partner with Whataburger. And, Jerry will pour your salt all over. Then Jerry will endorse your salt. You can be a sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Jerry can sell the Salty Sweeney salt at AT&T Stadium. So when you buy a burger or a dog, people can just smother it in the salt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or better, you can pay me to come salt your food for you.
Oh, I like that.
I will do that. That's a skill I have.
See, I've been saying for years, if I had money, I would get with George Gervin, the Iceman, and start an ice company in San Antonio. It's like, which ice do you want to get? Mission Ice? You want to get some other brand, or do you want an Iceman ice? And we put the Iceman like on the plastic ice bag. Spurs fans would go for Iceman, and we do commercials with the Iceman on TV for Iceman Ice. And then you get it in HEB. HEB could even manufacture and partner with George Gervin for Iceman Ice and do HEB commercials for Iceman Ice. It's $1 million idea. And I'm giving that to people and nobody does it.
But I think Iceman Ice, I think the younger crowd, I don't think that connection will be there for them.
Well, that's why you have to do commercials with him, and you make him hip
Yeah,
again.
you have to
You
grab
yeah,
him.
and he is hip. I mean, so you just make sure he's in those commercials. It's like, who is he? This is the Iceman, kids. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, coming up. Speaking of salty, the salty shakedown is moments away. So fasten your seatbelts, breathe deeply, prepare yourself. This day in sports history, sports birthdays. Coming up just after the top of the hour, Derek Fox of the Valero Alamo Bowl talking to us about the big event coming next week, the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview. Also, just after 8:30, Andy Everett previewing UTSA at Illinois this weekend. And as Shannon mentioned, this could be audition time for UTSA if they want to get in the Big 12, as the Big 12 is talking expansion now. Lots to cover, lots coming at you between now and 9 o'clock. Shannon Salty Sweeney, the boy wonder Jeremy Fouts making the show go. It's the Chris Duel Show. Look at that, Jason. George Gervin sold Italian ice at the Blanco barbecue for a bit. Hey, Jeremy, I got to record some spots, and I have to turn on my mic for it, so I know you don't have me going out, but I just want to make sure you have me down.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks, sir. All right. So I'm going to do that. I think these are 30-second spots, and they want 3 of them. Check. It's working. Join iHeartRadio Austin in our efforts to raise $10,000 for Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, HAAM. This year, it's our goal to reach $10,000. Love Street Blonde Ale will match our goal, bringing that donation to $20,000. Now more than ever, the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians needs the support of the Austin community to continue providing life-saving access to health care for Austin musicians. We hope you'll join other local industry leaders in supporting the musicians of Austin through Ham Day on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. Your contribution will make an impact, whether you donate $5 or $500. Every little bit helps. Go to am1300thezone.com for more details and to donate. Okay, that's 50 seconds. That is 50 seconds. Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Might be trustworthy. We got a whole box.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks so much. Yeah, I turned my mic off. I see some of you saying no sound. I turned my mic off because it was cold copy, so you don't have to put up with me stumbling through it. Let's see here.
Doesn't make any sense.
There you go, Warren. Warren knew what I was doing. So the boss man, Brian Gann, just brought by. John, our audience is not in Dallas. That's why, Dale Hansen doing his final bit, unless we had a live feed, it's not, if he were in Austin or San Antonio, it would be more appropriate. But I love the guy. I think he's great.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
And welcome back. Coming up, the Salty Shakedown this day in sports history and sports birthdays. Little Hotel California from the Eagles in the background, submitted for your approval by soundscape stylist Jeremy Fouts. Want to remind you, coming up at the top of the hour, Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl, as in San Antonio next week. It'll be the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview with Sam Acho, Texas Longhorn, and now of ESPN. And of course, Derek Fox, he moves in those college football circles. We want to get his thoughts on realignment. I want to get his thoughts on name, image, and likeness, his thoughts on the upcoming football season. Just after 8:30, Andy Everett going to join us as UTSA gets ready for a big opener at Illinois. And Shannon, on the live video feed, you can see the boss man, Brian Gann, just brought in the brand new Texas Longhorn pocket schedules. I can't get through a season without having the Texas Longhorn pocket schedule. So now anytime I'm concerned about the Texas Longhorn schedule, I just whoop out my pocket schedule and I am golden, because in the San Antonio area, you get your Longhorn football with the voice of the Longhorns, Craig Way, on 1200 WOAI.
That's great.
Beautiful.
They're going all digital this year at Texas. Which is great and also a little confusing when you need to share tickets, but also concessions are all cashless.
Really?
I'm like, you guys have been giving me that $50 for change for the last 20 years, 20 plus years. Now what am I supposed to do with those? Because I only ever used them there.
Yeah.
Gave them right back to you, and now I have leftovers, and now what?
First world problems.
I know.
Yeah. Very, very nice. So anyway, this is like giving me a gift. And now that I have my Longhorn pocket schedule.
You should laminate it.
I might.
I know laminate doesn't fold well, but you should laminate it.
And he gave me a big old box of them. I can exactly. Be walking through the malls hanging those out. Where are you handing his pocket schedules? Because I'm a freak. That's why. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Before that, we've got some sports birthdays for you, and we'll start it off with this day in sports history. This day in 1965, Chicago Cubs slugger Ernie Banks hit his Major League Baseball 400th career home run. It was off pitcher Kurt Simmons, if you're curious, in the Cubs' 5-3 win against St. Louis at Wrigley Field. Simmons, that pitcher, also gave up Willie Mays' 400th home run in 1963. So I guess he liked giving up the big milestone home runs. On this day in 1971, two teenagers, male and female, win their first matches at the U.S. Open Tennis Championships at Forest Hills. Those teenagers were named Chris Everett and Jimmy Connors. They were both kind of sweethearts at one time, and they would both go on to have pretty major tennis careers. Chris Everett and Jimmy Connors just coming onto the tennis scene at the U.S. Open Tennis Championship in 1971. And finally, in 1973, on this September 2nd, Billy Martin is fired as manager of the Detroit Tigers due to continual differences with the front office. He would go on to manage the Texas Rangers, the Oakland A's, and the New York Yankees. Interestingly, he would manage the Yankees on 5 separate stints because owner George Steinbrenner fired him 5 separate times and 4 times brought him back. Those of us who remember watching Billy Martin, very entertaining manager, would always get into it with umpires, start kicking dirt on the shoes and pants of the umpires, getting tossed out of games. Billy Martin, one of the most colorful managers and previously a player in Major League Baseball. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1941, John Thompson, Hall of Fame center and broadcaster and coach, of course, won the NBA championship with the Boston Celtics in 65 and 66. He coached Georgetown and Patrick Ewing to the NCAA championship in 1984. He was born in Washington, D.C. on this day in 1941. Sadly, John Thompson passed away last year in 2020. Born on this day in 1948, Terry Bradshaw. I hated him when he was a quarterback for the Steelers because they beat the Cowboys in 2 Super Bowls. Now I like him on the Fox panel. Terry Bradshaw, happy birthday, born on this day in 1948. And I was mentioning Jimmy Connors and Chris Everett. Jimmy Connors is having a birthday today. He was born in 1952 on this day in Belleville, Illinois. Went on to be an 8-time Grand Slam winner. He won 109 tennis titles overall. Jimmy Connors was pretty good. And finally, born on this day in 1960, Pro Football Hall of Fame running back Eric Dickerson, who set the NFL single-season rushing record with 2,105 yards in 1984, made the Pro Bowl in 83, 84, 86 through 89. Los Angeles Rams and Indianapolis Colts running back Eric Dickerson was born in Sealy, Texas. Of course, he went to SMU, backfield mate with Craig James, the father of Slackman James, that son wide receiver who got the Pirate fired at Texas Tech. I'm just saying, not that I'm bitter. All right. That's your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, and farm animals, the moment you've all been waiting for. Here it is, your Thursday Salty Shakedown.
Well, we've talked plenty of Whataburger today, so let's keep it kind of with the food thing here, sir, because Colin Morikawa is trending because of the way he eats cereal, Chris. Now, I myself am not big on cereal. I'm not big on milk in general. And then I don't want wet cereal. I'll eat it dry, crunchy, delicious, get all the flavors it comes with, but I'm not really into the standard cereal. And there was a video of him. He's doing some hitting practice. And in the middle, he goes over and he grabs a collapsible bowl and he pours the milk in first and then the cereal. And people went nuts, Chris. With this process that he went through. And it's not like he's, just he's a frequent flyer of the cereal, sir. I mean, if you looked closely in the video, you will notice that some of his golf club head covers are emojis of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, his favorite cereal that he enjoys chowing down on. And those club covers also hold cereal and cereal items such as spoons and straws. So he is deep into the cereal game. and very passionate apparently about the way he dishes out his cereal with the milk coming first. He says in college, it was a big contention point between him and his roommate. Like his roommate just could not understand it. Sir, do you have a preference?
And again, I'm fine with milk and cereal, but yeah, no, I'm a cereal first and then the milk guy. And but
Okay.
I this is just weird for Colin Morikawa. I mean, they must be a sponsor. This must be happening because they
Go
sponsor
into
him.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
What is going on here?
And who pulls out cereal from their golf bag?
That's so weird.
You know, I've seen like a power bar or something, but
yeah,
some cereal. And where's the milk coming from?
They got to be paying him big money for that.
I don't know. I
Like
mean,
Jerry
if
Jones
they
and
aren't, they
Whataburger.
better now, because I'm sure that Cinnamon Toast Crunch is now flying off the shelf. We'll see. Maybe, I mean, he did try and convince people to say, look, the cereal, if you pour it in last, it stays crunchier longer. I guess. I don't know. So you test it out. Maybe that's a science. Kids who need a science fair project coming up.
And that's
School
ridiculous.
is back in session. Does
'Cause
cereal stay crunchier longer if you put it in last? I don't think
it's a matter of seconds. It's either number one, and then you do the second thing, and no, it's
So now we're not only debating his tactic, but we're debating his reasoning behind it. So there's that for Colin Morikawa. Of course, he is now an Olympian as he just returned from Tokyo. All right,
good for him.
Chris.
Yep.
It's Thursday. We've got some games. We've got some big games. We've got Ohio State taking on Minnesota.
Woo!
And they are 14-point favorites at this moment, so it might not be a close one, but people are excited to see them. Of course, they didn't get to see a lot of Ohio State last year because they only played 5 regular season games and they went 5-0. And since Ryan Day has taken over the program, he is undefeated in the Big Ten, and he is 23-2 overall. And he has his beard to thank for that. So he grows out a beard in the offseason. And earlier this week, as the media was gearing up to writing their final stories before the team's first game, he was asked this question.
My question is the beard here to stay?
It's not. No, it has to go probably the next 24 hours. So I'm not going to coach with a beard. I'm too superstitious. So I'd like to. Sam, I thought long and hard about it. My wife and I had a conversation about it, but I'm not taking that chance. So especially starting with a conference game, beard has to go.
He's not taking the chance, Chris. He's got a beard superstition. He's perfect in conference. He's got a conference game tonight. He's got a clean shaven face when we'll see him on the sideline. I mean, this is probably one of the weirder superstitions I think I've ever heard, because it's not like he's playing, right? I can understand if you've got a really large beard, probably out of your peripherals, you see, you can maybe see some of it. And so maybe that would change things, but you're just coaching. I mean, are you having a harder time reading your playbook when that happens, or seeing stuff on the field? I don't get it, Chris. I mean, you obviously sport a beard pretty much every day. I think I've only seen you without one maybe once since we've been working together. I mean, so I need your thoughts on this one here.
Well, but you say it's not like he's playing the game. Why does he have this superstition? I mean, fans have superstitions and different clothes we wear. During Cowboys games, I tend to stand in the fourth quarter. It's just weird. So, I mean, if this is his superstition, I get it. And and it's working for him. I mean, you talk about his record. So, superstitions are reinforced when they start working for you, and you tend to believe in them more. And I think that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think the more you believe in the superstition, I believe it's more likely that if you either use it or violate it, that it'll go against you. So I'm cool with it. I get it.
If we ever needed another reason to want Ohio State to lose, I now have it that I want to see him grow a beard out during the. I think he looks good with the beard. I think if he wanted to keep it, he should. And maybe he just needs a loss to be like, you know what? It wasn't the beard that was causing me to win or lose games. It was just my play calling. I just made poor decisions that day. So we'll see what happens throughout the season. But tonight he should be clean shaven on that Ohio State sideline. Finally, we move to the NFL. Sir, the Raiders, they have their new home in Las Vegas. All the things are shiny and new. But that's not enough for owner Mark Davis, okay? He is now building a mansion up in the mountains in Nevada worth apparently $14 million. It's going to have 15,000 square feet. 5,433 of those square feet are going to be the garage alone, because I guess the man has a lot of toys. But the interesting part about this, because it's not surprising that a very rich man is building a very expensive and very large home, It's the fact that a lot of people don't like to bring their work home with them, Chris. They like to leave it there. They like to go home and relax. But if you've seen the renderings, you already know where I'm heading with this. This man's home is designed to look both like the Raiders practice facility and the new Reliance Stadium. This guy is obsessed with his own team. I don't know if I love it or think he's maybe gone too far at this point. But Chris, I don't think I could live somewhere that looks like the office I work in.
But if the office you work in, if you own the Raiders, just like Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys, I mean, if your passion is what you do, then I kind of like, Mark Davis, he inherited that team obviously from his dad, Al Davis. So you kind of think, wow, it's lucky to be born Mark Davis. Yeah. But the fact that he's this into it, and if they could ever get successful, it would be nice. But I kind of like it. I like him more for this.
Yeah, I need a reality HGTV type show to follow the creation of, because I'm now invested, not only from the football aspect but from the renderings of what it looks like. He's gonna have not only a regular kitchen but a chef kitchen, because of course the regular kitchen's just for show. A movie theater, a man cave, a library, and also the garage with that 5,000 square feet is not labeled just a garage. It's also labeled for guest parking and vendor parking. I don't know what kind of vendors he's going to have over at his house, but I guess they're going to be pretty big ones to have that amount of square footage. Again, I need a show. I need more details on this. And I'm curious of how long it's going to take for him to build this up in the mountains, because I need it today. I need it right now. The renderings are no longer enough. It's been 12 hours. There you have it. Today's Salty Shakedown. Another outstanding Salty Shakedown, raising beard issues and architecture issues and, very, very, and of course, Colin Morikawa cereal issues as well. Can I raise another issue with you real quick? Absolutely. And I don't want to call out Texas here, but they've been pumping all of the new stuff coming to the pregame activities, right? And one of them being that 45-foot Ferris wheel. Students are back on campus. They're celebrating them. They had a campus event yesterday where people could come out and actually ride that Ferris wheel. Yes. Students were stuck for an hour on that Ferris wheel yesterday. The fire department had to come. And so I just say move with caution if you don't want to miss kickoff, because you're on the Ferris wheel. It's 45 feet tall, but I still don't think that's tall enough to where if you're stuck at the top, you can then see into DKR. How long were they stuck again? Move with caution. I think close to an hour. Oh God. See, my biggest fear is if I ever get stuck on a Ferris wheel or an elevator, I'm not claustrophobic. I don't have a fear of heights. Yeah. What if I have to go to the bathroom? What if I'm there with friends of mine? Yeah. Or it's like I've been here an hour. I really need to go. It's carnival rides like that where they can be picked up and moved that easily. I've become more skeptical as I've gotten older. Yeah, and I think I was considering attempting it, right? Because it's new, it's Texas. It's like what's the worst that could happen in day one? And yeah. So hopefully they get a new one in, or they figure out whatever the problem is and they fix it. Yeah, this makes you, with this malfunction, I think it makes you think twice about the Ferris wheel experience. But that's a very interesting story. I do want to mention, Shannon, we are giving away tickets. You talk about this weekend, the game at Texas. You can actually do both, because the Coheed and Cambria concert is going to be in the evening. So Coheed and Cambria, we're going to give away tickets. We've been doing it all week. We're going to do it again in the 8 o'clock hour. So hang on to that phone number, the same one you used to call us, 800-707-9760. We'll tell you when to call for tickets, and Shannon shall determine which caller will get the tickets. And again, if you don't win today, you got a final shot tomorrow, and that concert at Circuit of the Americas is on Saturday evening with Coheed and Cambria. And I think also The Used is on the bill. Yep. Shannon. We know them. Jeremy's a big fan of The Used. Mm-hmm. You'll probably see Jeremy somewhere in the crowd Saturday night with his The Used t-shirt on. Maybe leading the mosh pit. Yeah, there you go. Coming up, Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. Lots to talk about with him. It's the Chris Duel Show till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh. See, I do have the pigskin preview up. Read more.
So, Jeremy, on both of these guests, they should be calling us. And Derek's usually pretty good at that. But if not, you've got the phone numbers for a backup. Thank you, sir. Woo! Woo, woo, woo.
For Austin musicians. And this year, Love Street Blonde Ale is going to match our goal so we can raise $20,000. Now more than ever, Health Alliance for Austin musicians needs the support of the Austin community to continue providing life-saving access to healthcare for Austin musicians. Please join us in this quest. Ham Day is on Tuesday, September 14th. Go to AM 1300. Please join us in this quest. Ham Day.
Cool, man. Thank you, sir. Derek Fox is on the line. That's a beautiful thing. Let's see here. Is that Wednesday, September 8th? Yes, Wednesday. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
Oh my goodness gracious, football is upon us. Certainly college football, 4 games tonight, highlighted by number 4 Ohio State in action at Minnesota. That game will be on Fox tonight at 7. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And when you talk about college football in the great state of Texas, one of the greatest and most successful bowls over many years has been the Valero Alamo Bowl. And coming up next week, next Wednesday, it is the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview with Sam Acho, Texas Longhorn, of course, now with ESPN. That event this Wednesday, September 8th, at the Alamo Dome is going to be fantastic. I've been to some of these pigskin previews before in the past, and they are absolutely fantastic for football fans. On the phone line right now, a good friend of the show, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl, Derek Fox. Derek, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, we're getting ready to start college football, so I'm pumped. How about you guys?
Oh, I am totally pumped. Shannon and I have been it's almost feels like Christmas time for football fans. And this is always a great event, the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview. I've had the privilege, Derek, of being to a number of these events over the years at the Alamo Dome. For people who might not go or have gone yet, how would you describe it to them?
Really, the ultimate on-field tailgate party to kick off the college football season. You got a great food in Rudy's. Obviously, you've got a great MC this year and ESPN analyst Sam Acho, who obviously a number of Texas Longhorns will recognize from his playing days, both in college and in pros. And you have a chance to have some interactive games. We've got Chicken and Pickle. We'll be out with some games this year as well. So, and obviously, we'll be talking about college football. So I have a video about Big 12 and Pac-12 football. At that point in time, we really tee it up, and the countdown to the 29th Valero Alamo Bowl on Wednesday, December 29th.
Now, you've got Sam Acho there, and he's recently taken on an even bigger role with ESPN, being a part of that college football breakdown broadcast. What is he going to bring to this that maybe other guys haven't in the past, aside from that Texas Longhorn connection?
Well, I think obviously you have a player who just recently retired from the NFL too, so he'll be able to talk about not only college and pro experiences, which is kind of fun. And obviously we're in a new day with the NIL, and be able to speak a little bit about that and how that's a new way of life in college football and college athletics in general. And I think you can certainly speak to that as well.
And Derek, you mentioned NIL, name, image, and likeness, and how that is certainly changing the college football landscape. And of course, now realignment, this big story of the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners ultimately headed to the SEC. Shannon and I were talking earlier today. The Big 12 is now talking about expansion and looking at other teams. I mean, obviously for you and your staff at the Valero Alamo Bowl, because you take a representative from the Big 12 and from the Pac-12, certainly I imagine this is something you're keeping an eye on very, very keenly. How do you feel about where college football is going with these two big issues, name, image, and likeness, and, realignment and people changing conferences?
And by the way, the third big thing is a potential expansion of the CFP playoff as well. So
yes,
huge things going on in college athletics, all good from that perspective. As far as we're sitting there watching the Big 12 to see what's going to happen. We know obviously that Texas and OU are headed to the SEC in 25. So if everything goes according to what they've stated so far, that would be 4 more years under the current environment. Now, will that happen or not? We don't know, but we'll watch and we'll see what happens with the Big 12. The same thing. The Pac-12 obviously has indicated a desire not to expand at this point in time. Doesn't mean they will or won't in the future, but just right now with the alliance between the ACC, Big 10, and Pac-12, you kind of have a little bit of tapping the brakes on the conference realignment stuff. So, which obviously is really good from the Big 12's perspective as well. So they can take their time and evaluate the landscape and see what makes sense for them.
Now, you mentioned the playoff expansion. Do you have the hopes that the Valero Alamo Bowl will become part of the destination for future college playoff games?
Well, we'll see what happens. I talked about an expansion to 12 teams. That may or may not happen. Inevitably, I think there will be an expansion to the playoffs. It's just a matter of when and how much they'll expand it. If there's an opportunity to be a part of that, we certainly let the CFP know we'd like to be considered. It's a competitive environment, but you look at the track record of the Valero Alamo Bowl in San Antonio and what we've been able to put together for the last 28 years. and currently being one of, if not the top bowl game outside the CFP, I certainly think we've proven that we're capable of this, let alone talking about major events like the Final Four and other activities that come to San Antonio. And we always hear about how people love it come to San Antonio. So why not?
He is Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. And Derek, you and I have spoken a lot over the years, and it is so true. I mean, the success on pretty much every level, everything that a bowl event wants to be successful at, certainly the matchups have been phenomenal. The games have been phenomenal. Attendance has been outstanding. Television ratings have been great. Scholarships that have been generated, helping so many kids and students over the years, just remarkable numbers generated by the Valero Alamo Bowl. From your perspective, how does this come together? What do you think is the secret sauce that makes the Valero Alamo Bowl in all of these categories as successful as you have been over, as you mentioned, 28 years thus far?
You kind of tapped on it. It's a great partnerships all around. Let's start with Valero, best title sponsor in the bowl business, and I think obviously the best in the golf business as well. And thank goodness they're based here in San Antonio. You got a great destination city. People enjoy coming to San Antonio. It's safe, it's clean, it's fun, and people enjoy that. You talked about the Pac-12 and Big 12. Got great matchups and exciting games. So even those people that may not make it down to San Antonio to visit, have been tuning on and watching the game. So having competitive games is important. And I think it's just important that, San Antonio does such a great job of rolling out the red carpet. We welcome big guests to San Antonio. I think people really appreciate that and sense that. When they go back and speak to their peers and people who didn't make the bowl game, they certainly speak well about San Antonio and the Valero Alamo Bowl. So I think that word of mouth is a tremendous asset as well.
Derek, one of the things that players look forward to and that I always find so intriguing when bowl game season comes about are the gifts that players often receive. And so, aside from the Alamo Bowl being in San Antonio, that incredible environment within the city and the game itself, y'all never disappoint when it comes to player gifts. Can you give us a little insight on how those end up coming about? Are they sponsors, or do you have to reach out to people? I mean, are people just like, hey, give our product to these players? They'll love it.
The gifting is a competitive environment as well. The kids certainly appreciate that. And we spend the full $550. We're limited from what the NCAA allows us to do. But we typically do a couple of things every year that are a team photo, so that's something they can keep. And we do our mini half and half helmet, which kind of is a symbolic of who played in the game that year and something they can keep with them. And then after that, we do different things every year, from electronics to gift cards to you name it. And we try to really get a sense of, hey, what do the 17 to 22 student athletes really want and like? So it's not me picking. Let's talk to our interns. Let's talk to the people who are involved in college athletics and find out what the kids really want. So one of those things that always bubbles up at the top, gift cards are well, it seems like not a big deal from that perspective. It's effectively cash from that perspective, that way they can go ahead and spend it on a gift for their parents or whatever they want. So that's something that's certainly become very popular in recent years.
Now, do you think, Derek, in this gifting arena, the whole name, image, and likeness, the way that has changed, might that impact the way you do what you do, or is there any impact that you see at this point where name, image, and likeness might come into play and affect what you do or how you do things with the Valero Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, I think we're certainly trying to monitor what's going on. Again, that's only really 2 months old now.
Yeah.
So still very new as to what's doable and permissible from that perspective. So we're going to monitor that. We had our bowl meetings here another last month in Phoenix and got a good firsthand sense of what's going on. We want to be as proactive as possible in that area, because it certainly would be advantageous. No one really is budgeted for an NIL budget in the current environment, but you want to make sure that you're reflective of that as well. And then on the gifting side, that's really more NCAA issue. So if the NCAA does move in a different direction and aren't as actively involved in what we do, which in a case like this is fine with us, then we could probably spend more on the gifts, which we're perfectly acceptable in doing that, and would encourage it from that perspective. But right now we're limited by $550. So, but NIL is different, and obviously we're going to work with our conferences to kind of see what's going on, and then ultimately our teams of players when selected.
For folks who love college football, bowl predictions happen at the beginning of the year. The second the champion has been crowned, people start releasing bowl predictions for the following year, and then they re-release them at the beginning of the season because they love to be able to look back and say, look, I called it. I called these teams at the playoff. I called these teams playing at the Valero Alamo Bowl. At what point in the season do y'all really start looking at who might be the options to reach out to in order to bring them to San Antonio?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, our team selection committee will start getting together in the middle of October. And kind of once teams are really bowl eligible or on the cusp of being bowl eligible, then we'll get together and talk about what games we're going to go out and scout each weekend. And, by the way, that was something we didn't get a chance to do last year because of COVID. So we're tremendously excited about the opportunity to get back on campus, see the fans in campuses, games on TV. But it was great starting with game day, right? Turn on game day, watch the fans there, go and watch the games in different stadiums around the country, fans there. Wow, what exciting times to be in, and we're really excited about what's going on right now.
Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. And Derek, as Shannon brought up, bowl game predictions. I was reading just this week on the website, The Athletic, there was a college football writer who predicted every bowl. And of course, first one I go look at is the Valero Alamo Bowl. And I see that the prediction was Shannon's alma mater, Texas, returning again to the Valero Alamo Bowl, this time with Steve Sarkisian. And Texas would face USC, my alma mater. And Derek, I talk to you about it every year. I always want USC to come to my backyard. People may not know, Derek, you married a USC Trojan, your beautiful wife. You have a son who went to USC, so there's some USC connections. What do you think the odds are that Heisman Trophy candidate Keaton Slovis may be tossing the football in the Valero Alamo Bowl this year?
You can take care of your two alma maters, respectively, Chris and Shannon, with the USC versus UT matchup.
Yes. Oh, that'd be great. Actually, it would be great. I'd go crazy if that happened.
Preferred.
Yes.
There we go. Now, so we know your vote. I'll let our team selection committee know.
Thank you.
Coach Stark coming back playing a former school of his.
Ooh, a little grudge match there on Sark's part. Yes. Now, and Shannon brought this up, Derek. Texas has done back-to-back Valero Alamo Bowls. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody going back-to-back-to-back. If it came down to it, from your perspective and even from Texas's perspective, do you think that would be a consideration and that might be something that either would have you guys maybe looking somewhere else or maybe even Texas saying, well, we've done that a couple years in a row? How much of that do you think might be a consideration if Texas is a viable candidate at the end of the regular season?
Well, I think you got to look at each year individually. Typically, you don't go back to back, and very, very extreme situations when you do a three-peat. But obviously, with COVID last year, it was almost an asterisk. We got the game in, but obviously, you looked at some of the teams opting in, opting out, all the things that happened. So last year counted. We were very fortunate to have a game from that perspective, and obviously, Texas played very well in that game, beating Colorado. But I think obviously, we look at it this year, we'll take that into consideration, but not in a normal automatic pass, if you would. Now, you do want to have the conversation because from the student athlete's perspective, is the same city 3 straight years, the best thing for them? That's certainly something to consider. But also, again, last year was so unusual where basically it was like in a road game. They would, Texas really came in the night before the game, they played the game and went home. Colorado did come in a couple days earlier just simply because Texas was open. Colorado wasn't. They're like, hey, we're coming in. We want to come in and spend a little time and do fun things too.
So, Derek, I want to recap the big event coming up on Wednesday of next week. It is the Rudy's Barbecue Pigskin Preview. It is at the Alamo Dome. It is on the field. It is so much fun. As Derek said, it's kind of like having a big kickoff to the football season tailgate party right there on the field at the Alamo Dome, and it will be hosted by Texas Longhorn, former NFLer, and now with ESPN, Sam Acho. Best way to get tickets for this, Derek, people who want to go, and again, I've gone to a bunch of these. I highly recommend it. It is a very unique, very, very fun event. Everybody loves it. You'll be happy you went. But what's the best way to get tickets, Derek?
Easiest way to go is go to alamobowl.com, and you can log on and purchase tickets there. So we certainly welcome people to come on down. We still have a limited number of seats available, and should have another great crowd to kind of kick off the season with this year's Roots Barbecue Pigskin Preview.
AlamoBowl.com for your tickets. And the final question, Derek, a lot of times I'm like a last-minute decider. If somebody decided on Wednesday morning they wanted to go, are there tickets at the event, or do you have to buy them exclusively at AlamoBowl.com?
We can do it ahead of time from that perspective at AlamoBowlEvent.com. That way we know for sure how many people are coming. And obviously we're still in a COVID environment, so if you come to the event, you do have to have a mask when you're in the building.
That's something to remember. Everybody bring your mask. Derek Fox, the president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. Derek, again, congratulations to you and your staff on all of the continued success on every level of the Valero Alamo Bowl. And we'll certainly talk to you as the bowl approaches, but hopefully, Derek, we can grab you a few times during the college football season to get your thoughts. It's, I think, going to be a very dynamic football season, and we always love talking with you. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Chris and Shannon, thanks for having us on.
All right. Thanks so much. Derek Fox, president and CEO of the Valero Alamo Bowl. Shannon, if it is Texas versus USC at the Valero Alamo Bowl, I think, and we should have just asked, you and I should be doing the coin toss, I think. If that's, you and I will walk out with our respective teams and dressed in school colors, and it'll be,
there would be no we're media here to be neutral and not cheer and not.
No. Yeah. Media is not supposed to cheer at games. And so, no, you have no idea.
We will care.
There's going to be some cheering.
We will care so much.
Yes, some cheering and probably some adult beverages before, during, and after the game. Will probably be. I will definitely be Ubering that night. Won't be driving. Won't be getting behind the wheel. So
you live close enough though for that to be
true.
Reasonable.
You're right. That's an easy Uber for me. Very, very good point. All right, coming up in the very next segment, want to remind you, you get a shot at Coheed and Cambria tickets. They are going to be doing their thing as well. Coming up, that's a Saturday night event. We'll do that with Andy Everett next. And Shannon, Andy Everett's going to be very, very interesting, as you mentioned. And I didn't really have that thought until you brought it up this morning, that this might be audition year for the UTSA Roadrunners as conferences like the Big 12. Look at them. We'll ask Andy Everett about that.
Yeah. No pressure. No pressure, UTSA.
Yeah, no pressure. So, man, I'm about as excited about a UTSA opener as I have been, probably dating back to the dawn of the program. So, coming up in the very next segment, we will hear from Andy Everett. Might even get his golf thoughts on Bryson DeChambeau and what's going on in the world of golf as well. Your Coheed and Cambria ticket giveaway is coming at you as well. Don't go anywhere. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Jeremy Fouts. You are listening to The Chris Duel Show. Yeah, I usually get out at 26 there. See, I heard the music, so it kind of threw me a little bit. It's like, well, I better get out or it's going to be awkward.
I heard you say coming up, and I just hit it instinctively.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my fault.
Yeah. No. I mean, it did sound like I was, but I wasn't. I was gonna jump into another segment and go to 26.
Okay.
So no big deal. Just give us more time on the other end. I mean, I usually go so late into a segment. I guess it's kind of nice to get out slightly early. So I guess we're good. Yeah, so since we're probably coming back early, Andy may not call on time. So if we do come back and Andy's not there, give him a call once we get into the segment. Thanks. And then, because then I'll, if you're wrangling Andy's phone call, I'll tap dance a little bit, because I know then you'd have to answer calls for Coheed and Cambria tickets. So we'll figure it out.
Okay.
John Williams and Ralph Balderas. How cool that it's Taro Kotani's birthday. I did not know that. I should have checked my Facebook birthdays this morning. But I appreciate you guys mentioning that. And I don't see Taro in here. But if by any chance he is, happy birthday, Taro Kotani. I should have, had I seen that, I would have put that in the sports birthdays for today. Ah, I see what happened there.
Learn more at am1300thezone.com. The Health Alliance. Here at iHeartRadio Austin, we're trying to raise $10,000 for the Health Alliance for Austin musicians. And Love Street Blonde Ale is going to match our goal, bringing it to $20,000. Now more than ever, the Health Alliance for Austin musicians needs the support of the Austin community to continue providing life-saving access to healthcare for Austin musicians. Learn more at am1300thezone.com, the Health Alliance for Austin musicians.
Ah. Okay, give him a call, and then once he's up or not up, then I'll do the contest.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
You can tweet us. You should tweet us. We will tweet back to you. It's a beautiful thing. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, in just a few moments, we're going to give away the Coheed and Cambria tickets along with the used. And you have told us that you might not be in the crowd after your Texas game day experience.
No, I'm planning on going home immediately. As quick as I can. Yeah. You have to be the exit strategy at BKR for the specific garage I park in is you have to know what's up. You've got to move, or else you will be there for 2 hours.
You're going to have to walk us through that at some point and make sure because that's news other people can use. A couple of things before we bring Andy Everett on board. I'm noticing he's joining us now on Facebook Live from Tokyo, Japan, the greatest international Spurs fan. He has traveled 16 times from Tokyo to San Antonio to watch the Spurs play. Taro Kotani, it is his birthday today. So over the radio airwaves, Taro, we wish you a happy birthday. And before we go to Andy Everett in just a second, right now we will give away the Coheed and Cambria tickets, Circuit of the Americas on Saturday evening. Shannon, what number caller should Jeremy Fouts take?
I like caller number 6 today.
Caller number 6 gets the tickets. And now, without further ado, he is the voice of UTSA athletics. I was listening last night to the Jeff Traylor coaches show from the Sandbox. He's the one and only Andy Everett. Andy, how you doing this morning? Yeah, and I was telling Shannon, I was listening to you and Coach Traylor yesterday on the Jeff Traylor show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio. And he's just such a great, motivational, inspiring coach. I went outside the door and I tackled somebody in the street. I was so fired up for football, Andy. I agree with all of the above, Andy. And Shannon brought up something interesting this morning, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. You know, the Big 12, we heard yesterday, the Big 12 is now interested in expansion now that Texas and OU are headed to the SEC. And, you know, with these high expectations for the UTSA Roadrunners, with Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine picking them to go 10-2, is it possible that either consciously or subconsciously, this game against a Big Ten team in Champaign, Illinois on Saturday evening, and indeed this entire season for UTSA, in addition to everything else the season is, could it maybe be an audition for the Big 12 or another conference as college football realigns and changes in the next few years?
It continues to be successful and upgrade the facilities that it has with its race facility, obviously a new basketball arena is in store and other things like that. There will be a lot of conferences that want UTSA. But you also have to understand, I think, what is the parameters of what the Big 12 and other conferences will eventually look like. And for example, in the Big 12 right now, with the 10 teams that are currently there, Iowa State has the lowest athletic budget, about $78 million a year is what they spend on athletics. I don't know exactly what UTSA is, but I think it's in the mid-30s. And so in order to be able to compete on the same level as an Iowa State or a Kansas State or those schools that are currently in the Big 12, then UTSA is going to have an athletic budget that resembles at least the bottom tier of those conferences and not half as much. And that is the case with any conference, USA school or Sunbelt school or any of the non-Power 5 schools, is that there is a group of schools that have a whole lot of money and a lot of schools that don't. And that's typically how you define the Power 5 from the non-Power 5. And I would love for that to happen. And I think if UTSA were to win, and and to win consistently. I think this community would get behind them. There would be more donor support. There would be more people excited about being a part of UTSA athletics, and eventually that money would come, and they would be able to have the budgets necessary to compete at the highest level.
Winning changes a lot, Andy, and UTSA hoping to get off on the right foot with their game against Illinois this weekend. Illinois, of course, favored by 5. They are a Power 5 school at the Big Ten. Given what you saw from Illinois last week in their game against Nebraska, they got a new quarterback in there because their quarterback went out of the game pretty early. And so that's kind of a bit of an unknown. What do you see this game looking like for the Roadrunners?
Well, the first thing I see is you said the line is 5. It was 6.5 when it opened. So that means somebody's been betting on UTSA this week for the line to drop. The second thing is that while I was impressed with Illinois' offensive and defensive lines, I think that's the strength of their team. What I didn't see, and what I'm used to seeing from the old Nebraska teams especially, was a lot of speed. Speed at quarterback, speed at wide receiver, speed at running back. Now, Illinois has some speed at wide receiver, and I think their defensive backs were pretty quick. But I didn't see a lot of speed from Nebraska, and that's unusual for a Nebraska team. And I think UTSA has faster players. That's just the non-football coach broadcaster looking at a team that's playing its first game. So I think Illinois is going to see a faster team than they saw against Nebraska. Here's the other thing too: Illinois wants to play hard-nosed, old Big Ten, 3 yards in a cloud of dust football. They want the game to be shorter. They want shorter possessions. They want UTSA to run 50, 55 plays. The Roadrunners want to run 80 or at least 70. And so it's going to be interesting to see if UTSA's defense can get them off the field, and then UTSA can run plays and score either quickly or have multiple possessions to be able to score.
Andy, of course, one of the marquee players on this UTSA Roadrunner team is running back Sincere McCormick. I remember many of the weeks throughout the football season last year, a number of those weeks, he was the number 1 rusher in the country. This was brought up on the coaches show yesterday between you and Jeff Traylor is, how many rushes, how many carries Sincere McCormick is going to have in this game and in this season. He carried the ball quite a bit last year. Do you see Coach Jeff Traylor, backing off and limiting the touches of Sincere McCormick? And how do you think he'll be handled in this game against Illinois?
I think the plan right now is to say, let's say you're going to run it 35 times and throw it 35 times. If you want a balanced attack at 70 plays. I think they would like for Sincere to have, say, 22 of those carries. Brendan Brady probably have 10, maybe 11, and some other running back 1 or 2. But here's the reality, I think, and I think we as fans see it, and I think coaches sometimes get into this situation. I think Sincere will play the first 2 series of the game, and the third series will be Brendan Brady's turn to play at running back. And if the offense continues to click, and there's no drop-off, and they still get the yards they want per play from their running backs, then I think you'll see Brendan in every third series, or he'll play 2 series and then Sincere 3, and they'll switch. But I think one of the things that is most important is that the offense doesn't have any kind of a drop-off. And I thought last year Brendan Brady was hurt. So when they went to whoever was second team, there was a drop-off, so it was get Sincere back in there and let's ride that horse until we win the game. And I think that's the thing that every coach kind of falls into the trap. They want to play a lot of players at that position, but is the offense productive when they go to the second and third team?
Andy, there's so many returning starters for UTSA on both sides of the ball. So I'm curious, in your opinion, which side of the ball you view as stronger and where some weaknesses might be on this team where we have to see them knock the rust off in this first game of the season?
I think anytime that you start a season, your defense is usually a little bit ahead of your offense because the offense sometimes tries to play too quickly. And we always talk about the pace of the game and slowing it down to where you can function properly and you're playing on reaction and your experience. I think that this team has got depth at every position. And I think the defense is we're overlooking the defense because of the successes finally of the offense. And remember last year, UTSA scored a lot of games in the 30s, and the years before that, they struggled to get into the 20s. And so we saw a very fun and exciting offense last year, and now we're going to see them against a pretty good Illinois defense to see if they can put 35, 38 points on the board, and that should be enough to win a lot of games. But I think defensively, I look at guys like Lorenzo Dantzler and Jalen Haynes, Brandon Matterson that are terrific players, and Rashad Wisdom. But I think the players that are, if you will, NFL pro potential down the road also reside on offense. Sincere McCormick and Spencer Burford and Afi Chumaka on the offensive line, and in a couple of years, Zakari Franklin at wide receiver. And that's not to take anything away from the defense, but this team has got everything it needs to have a really successful year. I saw a little bit of the UAB game last night. It was on at the Sandbox. We were doing the game, and they're still a good team. They shut out Jacksonville State. So I look at those two teams as still the best in Conference USA right now, and hopefully come November, both teams are undefeated, or it's a marquee matchup and you're playing for the conference championship.
That would be so cool. He's the voice of the UTSA Roadrunners, Andy Everett. Andy, Shannon brought up the line, 5 points. Illinois currently favored, and you made the point, started off at 6 or 6.5. So that means some people are betting on UTSA. Knowing what you know, and you just walked us through a lot of the assets that this UTSA Roadrunner football team has. After you watched Illinois and Nebraska was favored in that game, and Illinois built a big lead before Nebraska came back, and Illinois managed to hold on and win that game. But are you more or less confident now, having seen Illinois play in their house in Champaign, where that game is going to be played on Saturday evening? How by watching Illinois play, your confidence level for a UTSA win, did it stay the same? Did it get a little more or a little less?
Well, I think people have to realize when people think about Illinois, they compare them to the rest of the Big Ten. And Illinois has won, the last national championship they won was 80, 90 years ago, 1951, whatever that is, 80 years ago, I guess, or 70. And then you've got they last won a Big Ten championship in 2001, and I think they won another one back in the 80s sometime. So they have not had a lot of successes against the Big Ten. But the Big Ten is a really good conference. And Ohio State, and in the past Michigan and Penn State, and those teams have been the dominant teams in that conference. And so when you compare Illinois, people say, well, you can beat Illinois. They're just a middle-of-the-road Big Ten team. But they're still a Big Ten team, and they still have Division I, big Power 5 conference recruits that probably could have gone to Ohio State, sit on the bench, or gone to Minnesota or Wisconsin or any of those places. And Brett Bielema won 3 conference championships when he was the coach at Wisconsin. So they have a really good college football coach. So from that standpoint, I think people have to temper expectations in that if you beat Illinois, you beat a really good team. They may not be really good in the Big Ten, and they may only go 7-5 because of the competition that they're playing. But that doesn't mean that they're a bad team. And overall, when you compare them 1 through 130, I think that UTSA is incredibly confident, and this would be a huge stepping stone into what could be a fantastic year. But a lot doesn't mean that the season's over and no one should show up. This team's still going to be a really good team in Conference USA against Conference USA opponents. But a win against any Big Ten team is certainly something that would turn some eyes with fans around the country.
When you talk to Andy Everett, you have to talk a little bit of golf. And I want to talk to you, of course, about Bryson DeChambeau, because once again, he's making headlines, whether it's telling Patrick Cantlay, please stop walking, and then he ends up losing the BMW championship, or if it's the breaking news that I guess he complained so much to the PGA that now they are not going to allow people to refer to him as Brooksy from the crowd anymore. Your thoughts on the PGA finally kind of stepping in after he complained about it so much, and what you thought when you heard him ask Cantlay to stop walking while he was trying to hit a shot?
That it wasn't a big deal, that the people, the officials were about to put them on the clock for getting too far behind the group in front of them. So he was just trying to speed up and didn't realize that it was distracting to Bryson, so he just stopped. And it's no big deal. And on with that. I heard an interview last night with Bryce DeChambeau on the Golf Channel, and I think this is really interesting. And he said, if we're going to, he goes, one thing I like about golf is it's a gentleman's game. There is an etiquette to follow, and fans sometimes who have gravitated to the sport because of Tiger or the successes, or the more people are playing golf these days. One of the things that they do is that they treat it like a basketball game or a football game, and they've gotten a lot more boisterous towards the players, especially the ones that are polarizing and the ones that they may or may not like. And so if you have 10,000 people around the green and 1% of them are the ones that are the problem, you've got 100 potential fans that are going to say something, and that's all we're really talking about. And of those 100, maybe only 3 or 4 will say something to impress their girlfriend or to get on TV with their words or whatever. But he said, listen, here, he goes, I just want a fair playing field. I don't want to have to deal with things that the rest of the players aren't having to deal with. And I'm sure Tiger Woods probably said, welcome to my world, because I have to play in front of a circus every time I go play. But I think he said, because we're going to have live sports betting on golf someday, and people are going to be on their phones betting on whether or not I make a putt or not. Well, I want that to be a fair field, not only to me, but to the gamblers. Because are the gamblers going to think that I'm going to get rattled because I've got people yelling at me, and I might miss the putt, so they're going to bet against me. And he said, there's a lot of different things to think about. And he goes, I don't have a problem with Brooks. He and I have buried the hatchet. We're fine. If they want to pair us together at the Ryder Cup, we're good. But I just want the fans to back off now. And I think I don't know that DeChambeau asked Tour to tell the fans to stop yelling out Brooksy when he swings. I think the PGA Tour stepped in and said, this has gone far enough. Let's end it now.
He is Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics. He will have the call Saturday evening as UTSA opens up its football season at Illinois. Kickoff at 6:30. Coverage begins at 4:30 on Ticket 760 in San Antonio. And if you're outside San Antonio, you can find that on the iHeart Radio app. Andy Everett, we will be listening. Have yourself a great call Saturday night, and thanks for taking the time.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, sir. Go Roadrunners. Birds up. Our thanks to Derek Fox. Mr. Jeremy Fouts, do you have the winner of the Coheed and Cambria tickets? Who won those tickets?
I do indeed. His name is Ryder Wren. He is our winner for today.
Way to go, Ryder. Enjoy the concert. We'll give away another pair of tickets tomorrow. Great job, Jeremy. Nobody got hurt.
No,
Nobody lost an FCC license this morning, as far as we know.
Not yet.
We'll
Maybe
take
tomorrow.
that. All right. Shannon, outstanding as always. Let's do this again in 21 hours.
Let's do it.
We'll have a lot of more football under our belt in 24, and hopefully the big Ohio State upset. I hope you go down, Buckeyes. I'm already sick of you, and you haven't even played yet, Ohio State. All right. Thanks to everybody. Thank you, and happy birthday, Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan ever. We will see you in 21 hours and talk lots and lots and lots of football and all sports. Have yourself a great Thursday. See ya. Thanks, everybody.